Okay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 10th annual presentations of the Living Past Exploring Futures course. We're very excited for all of you to be here today. Our visitors from ELTA in Budapest are here as well. This is very exciting. Okay, so we're here to give the floor to three teams that worked their butts off to produce some really neat projects, and I'm very excited to get us started. So to begin, Yaro and I are going to go over a little bit about the course, make sure we're all on the same page, and we're going to unleash the students. So the current team of this iteration are myself. Yep, I'm David Skogerbo, by the way. Yaro, and then we have Tuan, Thomas, and Anouk, who is part of our team just because she's such a good collaborator. And we are together the facilitators that have helped guided the students through this course. What makes this course especially unique, however, is it goes beyond just those of us who help facilitate the students and the students themselves. We are engaged in a much larger collection, a larger community of partners that really help us to create these unique products. These extend from across the city of Utrecht, extending into Hungary, and the larger EU. I think one of the most unique, yes, this is from last year, but one of the most unique elements of this course, particularly in the last several years, is our connection to ELTA University in Budapest. It is facilitated through the Charm EU program, which allows us to have a very international collaborative process where students are creating similar projects with similar parameters, but across different cultural contexts. And we encourage this facilitation through really awkward Zoom meetings and some in-person meetings, as you can see from today. All right, so a little bit about the philosophy of the course, because this is key to understanding what is to come. So first of all, Living Past Exploring Futures. In essence, what we're trying to achieve here is the production of an innovative media product. We want to use digital tools, ideally, where we can help convey something historical and something futuristic, as in what do our students want to see in the future relating to the subject matter of which they are producing their product. And they want to speak to a very specific audience. So this is the ideal of the course at a higher level. How this has worked, as you can see, this is 10 iterations so far. So it's cool to be the 10th, of course. For the first 8, it was location-based. So we would choose a place within Utrecht, and students would create a product for that location. However, in the last 2 years, once ELTA came on board, and it was a lot easier to collaborate via themes as opposed to specific locations in Utrecht. Last year was Beyond the Walls, and this time we chose stations. Now stations. Okay, so this, first thing that comes to mind, of course, is a train station. We allowed the students to use their imaginations and try to think of something perhaps not quite a physical station as an intersection or a convergence point, but a place where two things coincide, two things intersect. And what you're going to see today is interpretations of this theme of stations, historically and futuristically. It's going to be quite exciting. So, all of this aside, we also follow a very unique philosophy in this course. Firstly, it is challenge-based. What this entails is that we present the students with a very specific challenge, produce a media product on Utrecht, imagining its past and future, and we unleash them. And everyone has risen to the challenge, I will say. It's transdisciplinary, meaning we bring in interdisciplinary students from different areas of research and non-academic knowledge. Community engaged. It's essential that all of our projects work with stakeholders within the community to make things that are actually of value to the city of Utrecht and to the city of Budapest when the time comes. And co-design. Ideally, that means that we all work together to create this course. We let the students tell us what they need, and we work together to create something that is co-designed. One thing that this entails is a lot of students become facilitators. Anouk being an example, and Yaro as well. So they go from student to facilitator and bring that knowledge into a continuous cycle. I've already gone a little bit into challenge-based, but this is to point out that it's all academically oriented. And transdisciplinarity. I want to just point this out because I think this is important, because as a term, it gets lost a little bit because interdisciplinary is such a big buzzword. But the ideal is, of course, multidisciplinary. You have two disciplines, they produce their own siloed work and talk to each other very vaguely at the end. Interdisciplinary is you intertwine these results into an incorporated final outcome. Transdisciplinary is the weaving in of non-academic knowledge, which you are going to see in all of these presentations, has actually come to fruition and is quite interesting. Community engaged also extends beyond just the actual working with stakeholders to try to get their feedback and their information and try to build things that are of value to them as well. Because our community partners have actually taken these projects and brought them into reality. We have had documentaries aired on RTV, the local news station. We have had a escape room actually made and funded within the Museum van Zuilen. And so it's community partnership to actually find end results within the community. And I think I'm laying on a lot of praise, but I think there are projects here that will actually find their way into the community for real. And lastly, co-design. The principle here is myself, Yaro, Tuan, and Thomas are not instructors. We are facilitators. We are here with you as opposed to over you. We are here to guide with you, to bounce ideas. It's been a very fluid process, and I think that that is essential to empowering the students to take the reins and go with it. And we also don't discriminate on how much you know. You can be a high school student, which I'm not sure if that's happened too often, but if you know a high school student, it'd be pretty neat. Bachelor's and master's students. What matters is that you are eager and you want to come and you want to make something. You want to work hard, you're welcome to come. So I'm going to hand it over to Yaro.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, so I will be talking a little bit about the course structure. So as told already, I used to actually do the course as a student, and now I'm a facilitator. So I know a little bit about the actual experience. So right now, today, we will be showing you the design research prototype. So they will be presenting the final product of the course. But before that, a lot of other processes and phases happened. So for instance, the first phase, first 3 weeks of the course is researching. So this is an individual part. It really gets the students into the design philosophies and the ideas that are going to use for the rest of the course. So it means writing an academic paper and doing a pitch. And well, they were very good. You won't be able to see them today, but they were very good. Then the next phase, so what came, like the previous 6 weeks, they were creating what you're going to see today. So there was a lot of research, a lot of historical data. There was a lot of bouncing ideas. There was a lot of phases and new ideas and new versions. And you'll see the end and the results of all of that hard work and in a few seconds. Just a little idea to show you what other projects we've had. So we've already seen Exploring Zuilen, but we've also had A Taste of Time in 2020. This was a food blog. The website's still online. You can still search it. And they have videos and recipes on it. And it's actually really cool. Should take a look at that. Then this is a video game. So Domstad in de Oorlog. During the course, this was just a prototype, but afterwards they actually finished it. And once again, you can actually play this game. And it's really interesting, and the animations are really cool. So I recommend checking that out if you have the time. And then we also had an actual podcast. So once again, really cool project, still exists, and you can actually listen to this. So just to give you an idea, a lot of these projects are out in the world and cool, and yeah, I'm excited to see what we're going to have this year, because some of them are also really cool. Actually, all of them. Okay, I think we can get started then. Yeah? All right, so the first was... right, yes. So, so first we're going to take a look at this playgrounds project, the botanical gardens, and Project Utrecht. Every team will have 15 minutes to present, and then there will be 10 minutes of a Q&A. So for everybody in the audience, you can ask questions and see how deep we can get. Yeah, so I think we can then get started. Yes? All right, let the playground group maybe get ready. Yeah? Come on up. Yeah?
Wow, it's so nice to be here with all of you, and such a pleasure to have people from outside of the country join us to see our humble little project. We we started this project with a question that we were asking ourselves, and that's, what is it like to experience a city from the perspective of a child? So you might imagine that they're quite a lot shorter than us. Maybe they're more sensitive to sounds or to a busy environment that is not really designed for them. And we really took the spirit of the course along with us and look at it through a design lens. Let's design a city that is from the perspective of a child, but we can't design a whole city in 5 weeks, so let's focus on a place that is meant for children, and that is playgrounds. So our project is a co-design asking, what would it be like if a child designed their own playground? And, well, children make up 15% of the Dutch population, and yet they're not really that involved in designing places that are meant for them. A place to play, to get excited, to meet friends, to develop socially and physically. And so we want to attack that problem and ask a child directly, how would you like to play? What is your play space like? And actually, believe it or not, the municipality of Utrecht does work on this, and they've tried engaging children on designing a playground. They might sit down and draw something, but we find that that information is not really actionable. It goes to the architect, it goes to the designer, and, well, it's hard to understand a child's abstract ideas, maybe wanting a roller coaster or a water slide, but you can't put that in a municipal park. And that's the problem that our project is trying to respond to. It's composed of 3 main parts. First, you want to kind of try to warm up, and this is based off of co-design principles. So think of a funnel, or of an hourglass, where you start really broad and then you're going to narrow out, select really what your problem is, and then when you're trying to solve for that problem, you're going to get broader. So we want to first do a warm-up with the children, and that we'll explain later. And then we want to get a little broader and try to do like a creative design exercise, which is some of the pieces that you see here and are getting passed along. And then lastly, we've explored these big ideas, we've experienced some design challenges, we've been talking with the children throughout the process, and now let's put it on a park that is relevant to them, that they're familiar with, that might be getting redesigned. And that is happening in Utrecht. In the Transwijk area, there's a lot of redevelopment happening, and they've been asking the neighborhood and the children, how would you like the park to change? And so we've modeled our co-design and this little scale model around a real world problem. But it's kind of an abstract idea. So a playground is much more than just a co-design with children. There's so many things that happen before. A municipality has to identify a problem, they have to speak with the community, and they have to do some preliminary planning, maybe some land use. And after these preliminary steps happen, this is where our co-design comes in. When they're trying to ask children, what do you want to do? What do you want to see in your park? Our kit is meant to be there at that moment to help understand the needs of the moment. And then it's going to package those ideas and then send it off to a designer who then has the voice of a child in a tangible and understandable sense so that it can ultimately be translated into reality. But we did some research, don't worry. There's the history of playgrounds. It's much more recent than you might think. In the late 19th century, well, actually before the late 19th century, the idea of a playground didn't really exist. You would go outside in your rural area and play in the field, in the forest, in the creek, and meet your friends, and that would be how you play. But in the late 19th century, you have dense urbanization, a lot of the research centers in North America and the East Coast, and you have places like New York City with tenement housing where there's 15 people to a small room across blocks, and this is causing a moral crisis in the city. And we have to, typically immigrant, clean up the way that these children are growing up and create them into nice, model, healthy citizens. And we're going to do that by influencing their children and playing in a very structured way. Over time, this has evolved more into the safe play, supervised play. You think of like those red, blue, and yellow, like primary color playgrounds that you might be used to. And we kind of fast forward to 2025. We've gotten all the way to this place with playgrounds, and now we're actually in Utrecht starting to rediscover the concept of wild play, but bringing it into the modern era. So this is Utrecht municipality has a massive focus on including natural materials in their playgrounds and having inclusive play. So that might be something that's suitable for a child with mental or physical disabilities, or things like junk play, like this playground here that doesn't allow your parents in. You play on your own terms. There's also a lot to say about the pedagogy.
Yeah. So when we started with our project, we want to include children in our first place, and we did some pedagogy research. And what we found is that pictures and image really helps children to understand what we want them to do and convey our ideas, and ask them to follow instructions solely by verbal instructions was not really working or really efficient. So in the top row, we can see like there's several iterations of children's drawing, and then from there, we thought developers can get some ideas and insightful messages from there. We did also another research on what is called a layered elaborations, and it essentially is you place very simple structures, and then children or adults can work together iteratively. So starting from a really simple structures, children can add their designs or ideas on the transparent paper, and then on another layer, adults can add their feedbacks and their own designs, and so on and so forth.
Right, so here, you can do that. You're better at that. Yeah, so we did all kinds of research on pedagogy and on the historical backgrounds, and after that we created, like, this is the final draft of our co-design. And the first step is to create a warm-up. As Shane said, children need to be in a happy environment and they need to be engaged to have like good results. So it's very important to break the ice. So that's what we do first, and we do that in 2 steps. We have a 2D step and a 3D step because children tend to have different ways of like working effectively and have a creative process in different ways. So that's why we do a 2D step and a 3D step. The 2D step is the 3D circle challenge. Most of you here have already done that a couple of times due to our pitch and previous co-design that we did. For the people who are new here, the 30 circle challenge is basically you have a white paper with 30 circles, and in a limited amount of time you fill in as many circles as possible. It's basically here to get your mind going and get creative ideas in a limited time. And the 3D step is to assemble physical pieces that Matthias made. And these are the pieces that you can use. However, in this case, you use this design.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Spoilers. Okay, so these are the designs that we use. So we have a playing kit and a bus kit, and they basically assemble it with physical elements to get yeah, their creative minds going. And then you have the second step, and that's way more open-ended. So you can get like creative stimulation in all kinds of different ways, and you can use a 2D step and a 3D step again. The 2D step is in this case a basic tower, and you can add different attractions onto it and different ways of how you want to play. You can draw them yourself, and that's the 2D step basically. And you're gonna talk about the 3D.
Yeah, and then there's also a 3D element for people who might be more physical. And the idea is that you might ask a child to design a play, like a play attraction that they would want to see in their playground. And it's going to be something abstract, a little weird, but you ask them, why are you putting a certain piece in a certain way, or what is the aim of this placement? And as a result of kind of like this creative but limited challenge, you get an idea for what is actually important for a child when they're getting to design something for themselves.
And so after the children have created their own 3D or 2D designs, the last step will be to place it on the physical playgrounds, and we did that by using our scaled down model here. In this case, would be Transvike, but same goes for example, Wilhelmina Park or parks in Lombok can be represented here as well. So what you do is to ask children to dream about their ideal playgrounds and put their own design inside the playground with pieces that's already provided. So like a more common attractions in playgrounds, and then after that, as a designer or as facilitators, you can ask children, what was your philosophy, design philosophy, or why do you choose to arrange in this way? And then from this information, we can convey what children really think about into like meaningful messages to designers, and then the voices of children are therefore being considered in the process.
Yeah, so basically what we want to do is to have the children involved in designing a playground. And to do this, we have this project, and we went to a lot of different cycles, and they're lined up here. So the first cycle is the... Can you move on? Yeah. For the first cycle is the initial topic and the prototype. We didn't initially want to make a co-design. We wanted to build the perfect playground based on what children want, what parents want, and what researchers say about it. And these are the types of informations that we needed for this. Most of what we did here was literature research, but we also did some real-life interviews. We went to playgrounds and asked children, what do you want? And when we did that, we actually figured out that it was very difficult to do that. And it's very difficult to get the opinions of children's, iterated in a nice way. And it's very difficult to convey their opinion in a good way that's effective as well. So that's why we figured out that we should change our prototype from building the perfect playground to building a co-design, which is the next step. So we decided to build a co-design, and this is the necessary information that we had from that. The first step, information on what the design process of playgrounds is, we did that by having an interview with the municipality. We talked about how this process went for Wilhelmina Park, for example. We also did, again, pedagogical research that Shane talked about. And we had a talk with Michelle, the wife of David, which is very nice. And Michelle is a co-design expert. She builds co-designs, and she talked about what the very necessary and essential steps of a co-design are. And we used that to create our co-design. Yeah, so we had all this information, and we built a first draft. I'm not going to go into detail about this, but we presented it in the previous presentation. So we do a warm-up, we do the tower thing, and some other things, and based on that, in the presentation, we got some advice on, what we need to improve on, and that's how we got to the final product, which is the fourth cycle. We had a step that had a Kahoot, but that's basically just showing pictures of playgrounds and asking which playground do you really like. But we figured, also due to the advice that we got, that it would influence children a lot. So we chose to not have a Kahoot anymore, because children need to have their own ideas and not be influenced by the choices that they got. We also chose to not put them in fixed groups anymore, because we used to put them in a group based on a favorite attraction that they wanted to build. But we didn't want them to focus on one attraction in particular. We wanted to focus on the entire playground. So it would be more useful to put them not in groups and just do the individual parts on their own. And then lastly, we wanted to use AI, and that's what Matthijs is going to talk about.
In the beginning, we were really limited by the illustrations of a child, which can be quite abstract. You might not actually be able to like derive useful information from that. So we turned to AI to kind of be able to translate what they were saying into something that might be more tangible. So by maybe doing a 2D design, playing around with 3D, and then discussing with the child a description of their idealized playground attraction, we would use that and generate an AI image from that, which then can be like translated using prompt engineering to create 3D models. And that's kind of what these compositions are, is that it's like 3D, AI generated, like from the description of the child into the real world that can be printed, but in a much more low-tech sense. You can make these out of clay. You can do this with Lego. But it's really like the direct kind of the translation of something really abstract into something that can be used in by an architect or by a designer. So that's kind of like the kit with the 3 components, with the warm-up, the open-ended, and then the narrowing down into a solution to a problem that we saw around Utrecht. Looking towards what we'd want to do in the future is that we lack like a real-world test run. Schools are really busy, there's privacy concerns, and so we never actually got to run the co-design with a group of children, which is something really unfortunate, and I think we would have learned a lot as a result. And then also, it doesn't have to be limited to playgrounds. Why not use this process to design a classroom or a school or anywhere else where children are an important stakeholder? I think just to open it up to what the process has been like for ourselves, it's really been a question of like designing under pressure. You have so little time and you have this grand ambition that you want to do justice for, and the fact that you have a time pressure forces you to make decisions that are going to get you as far as possible, but they may be imperfect. And it's been a massive learning opportunity and honor to be working as a group. What would you like to say?
Yeah, so this is basically just the final reflection of what we found in the course. And for me personally, I think that it's very useful to work with stakeholders, because we're all in university, and a lot of the university work is based on theoretical work. It's just basically doing literature research and writing a paper a lot of the times. And I think that this course is has a new way of approaching things by also including stakeholders. It's way more practical, and it helps you to have a bit of an image of what you could potentially do in the future. So I think that this course would really helps understand that part of future work.
And coming from like a sort of like code science background, I would say from this course, I feel what I did was more socially relevant. In the sense that when we did the street interviews, I really feel like we are being attached to the society, and then getting their voices into considerations, and that's what I enjoy, or what I see like the biggest difference from the courses that I took other than this one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great presentation, by the way. Great idea. I had a question about you create a co-design workshop with the children, and you get your idea into a 2D design, then a 3D design, and then your next step is vocally transferring the idea of the children to the designer. Do you think there are any, there would be any disturbance in that process, or how do you envision it?
I think it's a great question. So in our report, actually, we have a sections to analyze what we kind of collected from children's, and one of the way that we to reach this goal is to design several guiding questions. Like for example, we mentioned what was your design philosophy and what is your choice behind. Yeah, simple and a more simple and like tangible for children to understand. But then by noting down those decisions and then taking pictures or observing how they would assemble or arrange the park, I think by observing patterns, we could already sort of have a fake outline of what children could think of. Do you want to add something more?
I think that's the nice part about the final step where they like create their own thing, whether it's like the generated model that's printed or in clay or in Lego. Like that's I mean, of course, it would be lovely if it was tested, but the idea would be that the reality of it might be the communication itself. But of course, I think it's 50% the physical kit, and then it's 50% the conversations that you have during it. It's the process. You might make it feel like a party, and you might get the hat, like builder hats, construction hats for the children, and you get excited for this moment where you get to influence your environment. So this is really like a small aspect of it, and the facilitation of the co-design is really important as well.
Can you tell more about the shortcomings of using Kahoot? How did you use it in the first round, and what was the problem with it?
Yeah, so we didn't actually get to try this version out because we didn't get to talk to children. But originally, the Kahoot, it didn't necessarily need to be a Kahoot. It would just be having pictures of playgrounds and ask, do you like this? Do you not like this? Would you prefer another picture over this one? It would not necessarily be a Kahoot, but it would be something like that in a format. But this was also a first draft, so it was just mostly to help them make a decision based on pictures, because that was what came out of the pedagogical research. But eventually we took it out because the showing of pictures would influence their answer a lot.
What we found out after we had our first draft was that by asking children to design like a single attractions wouldn't be that impactful or meaningful to playground designers. It would be more useful for them, or for designers to have children to think about in the bigger pictures of what should be inside a playground. What is your preferences? What do you want to play in the playground, and how do you move in the playground? How do you cluster, or what type of attractions do you want to play most with, in a sense? So that's why we steer away from telling children to design like a single attractions which is our first idea, but then we came to our final version to ask children to sort of design their ideal playground, their dream playgrounds. Yeah.
No, it's okay. No, you go. I'll talk to you afterwards.
I was wondering if there were any results that you got from the children that really surprised you about what they want, what they were what kind of playground they want.
Yeah, so when we did our talk with municipalities, Utrecht, Gemeente, we found out they are redesigning a playground in Wilhelmina Park, and that their first draft passed, but then got rejected by the residents, and that results make us really curious about what the process was behind. But because they apparently did the research with the residents, with the kids, but they don't really disclose how they did it. And then during the working hours with them, they express like it's really hard to get children's involved or like ideas in the design of the end results, because the original or the first draft of Willamette Park was like really colorful with dragons, orange tigers or whatever, and because Willamette Park is already a monument in itself, so it was quite contradicting to fit those attractions inside of those parks. So that was kind of like the difficult part of including children's ideas in parks like Willamette Park. And I think you can also share your experience in Transbike. If anyone is interested, you can talk with Matthias.
Hello. We have done our project for Living Past Exploring the Futures about the botanical gardens. As you can see, we are also all wearing green. It's thematic. And we decided to focus on a new way of information giving. Because there is a problem, because human connection to nature is declining really fast. 60% in 200 years. This is because there's less information, and when people... And research says that connection to nature declining also means that nature itself will be declining as well. So nature's declining because we are less interested in nature. We care less because there's not enough information and no modern way of learning. And lack of knowledge about nature leads to lack of interest in nature as well. So we came up with the question, how can education increase conservation? And as we said, research said that because nature is decreasing, oh my God, nature is decreasing because we're less interested, so how do we increase conservation? Through education. We need to educate people better on nature. Now, we looked at the history of the concept of botanical gardens themselves, which dates back to 1000 before Christ. And it was initially used for drugs, medicine, and spices, but now there's more of a shift towards education and conservation. And Utrecht Botanical Gardens over there were established in 1639. And it used to be really focused on education, on research, but now the target audience has kind of changed to everyone, because students can go there in there for free, and everyone can just go in there. So the target audience has changed from people who do research, from botanists, to just regular students as well. Yeah, so there's more general public, and that's important because if you go there, then you're already interested in plants and in nature. So how can we make information easier for them? Because we went over there, and the current information transfer, we were not really impressed. There's a lot of, there's a lot, as you can see here, there's a lot of information, on a huge overload of information. And that was in the old part of the Botanical Gardens. There's a new part of the Botanical Gardens, which we also went. We thought maybe it would be better. It was a little bit better. There it was in more of a list form. There were more. It was more like a list, so it was easier to see. But we noticed that it was really still catered towards people who have studied botany. There was a fun fact on the sign that was we couldn't understand because we are not botanists. So that's also a problem. And they did use QR codes, which we interviewed Twan. And there's a couple of drawbacks to QR codes because they need to be constantly maintained, which is really expensive. QR codes don't get scanned nearly as often as people think, and people without phones can't scan them. And do you really want people to stand here like this in the Botanical Gardens while there's plants around you and you're standing like this reading that? So.
Shall we come up with a new question? An evolution on our first one. How can we change, how can we deliver the information that is currently given in the Botanical Gardens and cater that towards the new target audience? We did that using 4 design cycles, which went over first creating the general idea of what we wanted to do, the process in creating the result, and the result itself. I will go over this design cycle and take you along for the ride. So the first design cycle, creating an overview. Michelle has already mentioned once. I will do it a second time because the co-design workshop was the base of our idea. We went over what our problem would be, why would that be a problem, who is it catered to, and but, so the creation of what we're going to do about it. The process was chaotic to say the least. These are all our post-it notes, which miraculously combined to one idea. So when we had the idea about gathering information about the Botanical Gardens and changing that, we went actually to the Botanical Gardens, looked at the sign, as Dagmar told already, and asked ourselves, what could we better? Thirdly, we did the research, so we went into historical context of the Botanical Gardens, and that knowledge, increasing knowledge about nature can actually provide a better conservation about knowledge. So, design cycle 2, the research. As we said, we did an interview with Twan about how QR codes could be difficult to implement in certain occasions, and that the implementation of the QR codes currently in the Botanical Gardens is also not optimal for the information transfer. We did some research about information delivery. Other than reading, there are a few different ways you can relay information, like a visual representation and an auditory representation, which we chose for. It was best for our implication, but Amar will go in that, into that in a different slide. And we made the first sketches. This is our first sketch. As it might have occurred, it's a bird. Our first idea was that we would have a bird standing there, 3D printed, which we had a nice model about. You could press a button, the bird would play a song, and it would tell how the bird was related to a plant it standed next to. So we wanted to focus on the relation between the plant and the bird, and that way make the information more interesting. However, in design cycle 3, we had the pitch to our main stakeholder. Sadly enough, they can't be here, but they're the director and the project manager of the Botanical Gardens. They did not really like the bird, to say the least. No, they were pretty excited. However, they did wanted to see a change. I will go into that later. The pitch was an interesting experience, though, because first of all, it's our stakeholder for implementing the idea. We want to implement the idea in the Botanical Gardens. However, it's also our main rival, as the current information in the Botanical Gardens is something we want to better. So it was a bit of a delicate conversation. We also did a survey with visitors of the Botanical Gardens. We have some nice experiences. Some people did not like the auditory delivery at all, and other people were very excited. We also had someone who was very bad of hearing, so we created an idea how we could tackle that problem, which Amar will go into later as well, or Veerle, I don't know. And then we started with our creation. We set up 4 demands of our prototype. The prototype has to be sustainable, so it doesn't break when someone touches it. It has to be attractive, so you have to be visually connected to the prototype and be inclined to walk up to it and interact with it. However, it does still need to be natural. It does need to blend in with the Botanical Gardens and not be a sight for sore eyes. And most importantly, needs to be informative. It needs to be informative in a way that it stays with the visitor and not as dull as the signs that are still that are there now. So these were a further evolution in our sketches. As you might see, these are plants. The Botanical Gardens wanted us to change from bird to plants, as they wanted to mitigate plant blindness, which is a term used for the general public, that they're generally not very interested in plants, more in animals, birds, insects. However, interest in plants is very important, as it improves conservation, research, and general money flow towards plants in general. So they wanted to hype up plants a bit more. These 3 sketches then condensed into this one, which is our main sketch. We have 2 buttons below, because that was the result of the survey and the pitch as well. 2 languages, one in Dutch, one in English. A plant on top for visual demonstration, and a plant pot, so it would blend into the Botanical Gardens. And this is our last sketch, and we will see if it turned out something like this.
So, right before we get to the result, in order to produce the result, we used Lily's Proto Lab significantly. And for those of you that thank you, Ed. And for those of you that don't know Lily's Proto Lab, it's pretty much a design space that has a bunch of different tools, from 3D printers to carpentry tools, where you can make whatever you want with the help of experts. And we were first introduced to Lily's Proto Lab during our BattleBots workshop, where we had to design these fighting robots. And our team did lose, but we were inspired to make a physical prototype. And so we had 4 visits after the BattleBots workshop to Lily's Proto Lab, where Ed and Peter helped us tremendously. Our initial 2 visits were kind of us pitching our idea, telling them what we wanted to do, and they gave us feedback on what wouldn't work, how we could go about this, what would work. And then our final 2 visits were doing deep research into specific parts, and then finally constructing the prototype. And there are 3 aspects to our prototype: the electronics, the 3D model, and then finally the construction. And the electronics were by far the hardest and most complicated, because none of us had the technical expertise beforehand. And there are different variations in how you can make the sound system. And this was one of our initial designs. It's not our final design, but it helped to serve as a foundation for us to progress from. For our 3D model, we were deciding between 3D printing and laser cutting. And in the end, we decided to laser cut, because we found that 3D printing a plant might not result in the most visually beautiful thing, as well as it's not as good for the environment. Meanwhile, laser cutting is out of wood, and this is more natural, so we also found that it would fit the aesthetic of the botanical gardens better. And then our final visit to Lily's Proto Lab is where we threw everything together, and these are some of our progress steps. And it's where we built our prototype. Dun dun dun. And so this is our 3D laser cut model of an orchid, which we chose because there are many orchids in the greenhouses where our prototypes would be implemented. And as you can see, there are 2 red buttons, one for Dutch and one for English. And essentially, the plant will play an audio that tells a story from the perspective of Evert Jacob van Wachendorf, who was a former director of the Botanical Gardens in the 18th century. It was narrated by Tuan. Thank you. And we do have these, as we mentioned, during our interview with visitors to the Botanical Gardens, we encountered one person who was particularly hard of hearing. And so we have these QR codes which can help you pull up the audio onto your phone, which you could put closely to your ear or connect it to a hearing aid through Bluetooth. And then for people who are especially hard of hearing or maybe want to read the script, we additionally have this QR code, which just pulls up the script, no audio. And so Evert Jacob van Wachendorf tells you about the Cocos orchid for about 3 minutes, and he tells you the history, some fun facts, and then eventually relates it back to climate change and nature conservation. And here is a little bit in Dutch. And then here's
Mijn naam is Evert Jacob van Wachendorf.
And then here is it in English.
Dear visitors of the glass houses of the Botanical Gardens, it's so nice.
And that's our prototype.
Okay, and now you're thinking, how is this gonna be in the botanical garden? Oh wait, it is already there. So we thought a bit about ideas how to really implement it there, because it's supposed to be in the greenhouses. Right now we used a plastic pot. It is recycled plastic, but we thought it could be better based off a glazed ceramic pot. It's more natural. It looks a little bit slightly better attractive. And next to that, we wanted to have a harder water-resistant wood, because this is a bit wobbly. Maybe if a child just pulls on it, it will go down. And next to that, it would be more attractive and more natural in the greenhouses. And it also would be more water-resistant, because the greenhouses have like a 95 humidity at night, so it's very high. And we want to protect everything well, and it needs to be sustainable on the long term. Next to that, we would like to keep the SD card. We right now have an SD card in the audio, and that means that the pod is like usable for different plants. So now you could use it for the orchid, but maybe tomorrow you can use it for a sunflower, because you could change the audio and use the pod and only need to change the plant. So that makes it more sustainable, and you can switch it up for people who visit more often. And we want to keep the QR codes with both the text and the audios. Like we said, for inclusivity for people who are bad hearing, or maybe not hearing at all, or just, we also spoke to some people who said, I don't want to hear it, but I would like to read the text because it's more interactive and fun to read it. We also talked about with people how many pods they wanted. The most answer was around 8, so that it's not like an overload of like too many pods that you're like, oh, now I have another one and now I have to listen 3 minutes again. But with that, they would like spread sporadically. And people would be interested to find. Children can also look for them and have like a little hunt on finding all the pots. So yeah, that was a presentation. Thank you. Does anybody have questions?
amazing presentation, by the way. Do you know if really people liked them? Do you have a sort of feedback already from visitors or maybe from someone else that's really said, "Whoa, wow, that's amazing," in sort of interactive or?
Yeah, we do. We interviewed with like the final sketch we showed that we used during the interviews with the visitors of Botanical Garden. So we realized that not the orchid was not on there, but we said this is going to be the idea. And like we said, some people were like, "Oh, I would find it horrendous because I don't want to hear noise because I'm in the gardens." But others said, "I would love it and it would be nice to have something different." And the plagues are not really interesting to me because I read 2 and now I'm done with it. So we know that people would like it, but like the opinions are a little bit divided because it just depends which way of learning you like the best.
And also during the survey, yeah, of course we made a script for the plant, which was mostly based on choices of visitors from the botanical gardens. Like people would like a person to tell the story. That's why we asked Twan and wrote it from the perspective of an old director. They also would like a historical part and something about climate change, which also like mostly fun facts, people said. But so the general outline of the story is also based on the survey.
I can talk actually very loud. So my question is very similar because I was wondering, because you mentioned so little bit kind of tensions with when you interviewed the people from the Botanic Gardens, and I want to pursue a little bit on that line. So when you actually had the prototype, what was their reaction? Because I'm really wondering, because they put a lot of attention and work and thought into their own boards, and then or in their own information things. And what was their, so were they enthusiastic? They think that this could kind of substitute or in addition? So what was their reaction to this? I'm really curious about it.
Well, we did a pretty extensive interview with the directors of the Botanical Gardens, and it's not that they're very strictly holding on tight to the plaques. They are very, yeah, they have a lot of knowledge about who their visitors are. They have a dashboard in which they keep a list of who is their visitors, and they're very inclined to improve their information delivery, like they do with new projects. So there's an evolutionary garden, as Dagmar talked about, and they have applied QR codes. However, they said, yes, we know this might be too interactive and too big of a barrier to interact with. So they've also done some experimentation with audio tours, and they were actually very excited about our idea because they plan on doing other tours which are more sensory. So they wanted to use smell and touch and also hearing. So they're actually very excited about our idea, and yeah, they were a bit sad that they couldn't come.
One, I think it's also important to mention that this isn't intended to replace the plaques, but like additionally just help further information transfer. And then they're actually renovating the greenhouses, which are the oldest aspect of the Botanical Gardens, next year, I believe. And so they were enthusiastic about this because it kind of is in line with their future plans anyway.
I was wondering, in the more future aspect, would you see as your prototype being expanded to, like, for example, in a zoo or other parts of botanical gardens, say like in wormhouse butterflies or other insects? How can you envision that?
I didn't think we really thought about a zoo or anything. We did talk about keeping it like more throughout the whole garden instead of the greenhouses. But I think Botanical Gardens said they just wanted it in the greenhouse because they have like different parts for every part of the garden. So like they have like an evolutionary garden, they have like an audio tour already, so you can keep it to your like ear, and they have like different steps. And some things they have like a hunt. They have like also the Rotstein.
Oh yeah, there's a rock garden. Sorry. Yeah. There's also a rock garden, so they're working on getting it more attractive to the general public. But like as you said, there are butterflies and such, and I think one of the main criteria of our stakeholder was, as I said, eliminating plant violence, so getting people more excited about plants. So I think as of for now and in the general future, we would still like to have it catered toward plants.
Does anybody else
Well, I have one question. In the beginning, you were kind of bashing the whole idea of like using QR codes, but now you've used 3 QR codes for the thing. What made you choose to do QR codes instead of something else in the end?
Well, we didn't really have another way to like give the script, get the script somewhere, and is not an extension of what we're saying, because the QR codes currently used are like here, scan for more information, but this will just show what information is already there for people who are not able to hear. That's the reasoning behind it.
I also think that one of the differences between how the Botanical Gardens is using QR codes versus how we're using QR codes is the garden's intent is for you to scan the QR code and then like read the information, versus one of our goals for our prototype was we didn't want to take away you like looking at the actual plant in order to learn about the plant. Like you can listen to the audio while still looking at the gardens, and in our case the QR codes are more just for accessibility.
So yeah, nice presentation and yeah, really, really nice prototype. I saw all the effort that you put into making it, and it was yeah, really well done. My question, one part is kind of a question, one's almost more of a suggestion. So for the question part, I wondered how you'd chosen 3 minutes, and for the suggestion part, I wondered if you could actually direct them to interact a bit more with the plant, if that's possible, or if that would damage the plant, I don't know. But if that would maybe be a way to make it not just that sort of passive, sitting, listening.
So thank you for your question and being here, Ed, first of all. We in the survey again, we did ask people how long they would like to listen to something, and the general outline was around 2 minutes. We did have a little bit more to say. Antoine maybe spoke a little bit slow. No, that's not true. No, but 3 minutes was well within the range people were willing to hear. And as of the interacting part, I invite you to listen to the audio afterwards. We talk about the Gogos orchid, which is named because of its smell. And in the audio file, we also suggest, please smell the orchid when it's flowering. So we do have the sensory interaction part you were talking about.
Thank you. And if we wanted to make it like it's more sturdy, so then people can touch the wooden exoplant. So they can also, yeah, children can just touch it and it won't break. That was it, I think. Thank you.
Okay, hello. Thank you for coming. This is our project titled Project Utrecht, or as you'll come to find out, Project Utrecht. And we aim to empower students to live in the past and explore the future as part of the 78th lustrum of UU. So to begin with, just a bit of a journey as to how we've ended up here. So during our initial co-design workshop, we envisioned a volunteering app that would help busy students connect with volunteering opportunities near them. However, we quickly found out that many apps like this already exist. We weren't filling the gap in the market. Evidently, the problem was students just didn't want to use them, which is fine. And we were also worried about making our app too niche. So we decided to switch focus, and we had conversations about the public art that we found around Utrecht. We envisioned a mural tour, ending perhaps with a mural of our own creation. We also found out that these already exist. But the idea of public art stuck with us, and we had conversations about the Kleur de Stad initiative. This led to a problem. Is there a lack of connection between UU students and the cultural background of Utrecht? And do students have a way to share their vision of this city's future? So our solution and our vision to this problem was an art installation as part of the 2026 UU Lustrum, the theme of which is cooperation between city and region. And we interpreted the title of the course quite literally. We wanted to allow students to live the past and explore the future. We wanted to create a through line or a journey that would take students from the past into the future, reminding students that just as people in the past created their own future, we as students are here to create our own future. So to do this, we are using 3 academic buildings within Utrecht and creating immersive historical narratives that we aim to project onto these buildings, and finally a design competition allowing students to share their vision of the future. So this is the Kleur de Stad initiative that we previously mentioned. This took place last winter. There were over 2,000 illustrations submitted to the initiative, and it looks lovely, and we took some great inspiration from there.
I'm going to talk to you about our first location. So we basically chose 3 locations to actually focus on for this course. 3 different locations where they will be projected on, 2 in the inner city and 1 here in Science Park. The first one is the Sonneberg Observatory. Luckily also the one you guys are going to see as our prototype. The Sonneberg Observatory is a very interesting location. Why we chose it? It used to be part of the Utrecht Defence Walls, and later on became part of the UU as an academic herbal garden, which you might have also heard in our last presentation. And eventually it turned into the university's observatory in 1853. For our prototype, we have chosen to narrate from the perspective of Johan Conrad Baghuizen. He was the first ever actual chemistry teacher in the world. He basically taught chemistry privately before it was recognized as an actual academic subject. And his classes became so popular that the University of Utrecht asked him to become the first professor, so as I said, in the world, to actually teach chemistry as an independent science. He basically also founded one of the oldest chemistry labs in the Netherlands at Sonneberg Bastion. But more information about this you will see in our prototype. Okay, we get a little preview. How did we create the prototype? Yeah, that's where we are. Basically, Grace over here put in almost, I think more than 20 hours actually, of stop motion animation, drawing more than 400 pictures actually, one by one, by hand, to create an amazing animation as the backdrop of our projection. Then I took significantly less time, still a lot, to video edit, together with one of my friends who is an actress, to actually create the edits and to create the final projection using both animation, informative facts, fun music to create a nice experience for students. This medium, as it says, is very easy to digest for viewers. It's very interactive, it's very fun, and you will get a preview in a bit. Then onto our second location.
Yeah, so the second location is the academic building, Academiegebouw in Dutch, and a lot of interesting things happened there. The Union of Utrecht was signed there, so that can be seen as a sort of predecessor of the state of the Netherlands. And also, interesting story is that Annemarie van Schuurman studied there, and it can also be seen as this first female student in the Netherlands. But the interesting part is she was allowed to attend colleges or lectures, but she sat behind a curtain during lectures, so people and maybe mainly the male could not see her. And a friend from Anouk actually, she made some illustrations for our project. And these are illustrations about the story of Anna van Schuurman. For instance, she's seen here as a painter. She's seen here as a writer. That's also why she's famous. And here she's sitting behind a curtain, attending lectures. So these are also drawings we could maybe use in the future. And then location 3, the Minard building, and that's also the building we're going to use for the future part. And that's mainly also because it's the first building you see when you're going to the science park, but also it's built with the future in mind. So for instance, there's all kinds of sustainable tools and stuff in the building. For instance, the rainwater is sort of collected in a pond underneath the building and used to flush the toilets, for instance. So it's a very, sort of good building to help students envision their own future. And then, of course, the future part, and that's the contest. So what we plan to do is create a contest for students to really draw their own future. And what we, for instance, can say, so create your own your drawing based on your vision of Utrecht University's future. And for instance, you can think about sustainability, but also current research happening and maybe research happening in the future. And also, of course, you really connect with the Lustrum, the connection between the city and the region, how you can help to stimulate that also in the future. And to really also help to get a higher attendance, we plan to really present the winner at the end. So there will be a sort of event where you can watch all kinds of animations on, for instance, the Sonnenberg on the academic building and the last one on the Minard building. And in the end, we will present the sort of winner of the contest who made the best drawing or the most beautiful drawing of the future of Utrecht University. And then we have a sample of one of the sort of drawings people could make, for instance, on the Minard building and how it would look. So you see flowers, you see some potatoes, and this is all also based, I think, on some of the research currently happening in the Utrecht University.
It's based upon the research of a scientist called Jason Gardner, who is investigating how colour and pattern variation in flowers can help influence climate resilient crops in the future.
So, of course, we've worked with a number of stakeholders. The Lustrum Committee was also there, so very nice. And we talked with them about the organization, the general concept. Also, Mr. Beam Studios is very important stakeholder we talked to, for instance, about the logistics, the equipment. So we did not know very much about how projections work and all the kinds of challenges that are important. And also, of course, the Utrecht Time Machine is also there. Also about the general concept, the organization. And our target audience is for now is the students of Utrecht University who want to learn about history, but also the residents of Utrecht who wants to learn about history. And we mainly use projections because it's a fun and immersive way to really interact with this history, not only read it from a plaque or in another way, but really, it's really more immersive. Okay.
So just a quick slide to say where we got our information from. So lots of our work incorporates images from Utrecht archives, also Utrecht University, JSTOR, the classics. Our impact on evaluation. So we want to provide an activity that will excite students and create a journey that we want it to be an event that can excite students and remind them that just as these individuals from the past created their own future, we're here to create our own future. So we hope to allow you students to express their creativity and to connect it with the city. And it's also a useful opportunity for the municipality to hear the perspectives of students on the future of the city. And then we have, Grace conducted a survey with all of you guys and people who we've shown our pictures to in the past. 100% of people who responded to our survey said that they would attend the Sonnenberg animation, which you'll all get to see at the end of the presentation. So lessons learned. We've learned to work with an interdisciplinary team. Not only in terms of subject matter, but half our team is international, which has been a lovely experience. And we've also had to liaise with stakeholders, which has been a great skill to learn. We've also learned about the practicalities of projections as a medium, how they work, the challenges, mainly cost, and the logistics, and just how to co-design, be flexible and compromise and manage our time. And then you're going to talk about the future.
So what will we do after this? So we have made a sort of prototype of an animation, and we're going to show that in a few seconds. But for instance, if you really want to bring this to life, one important aspect is the cost. It can become quite expensive if you want to project on a large area. For instance, on the Minard building is very large, and it can be expensive because you have to use multiple projectors. But one potential solution would be that you project on a smaller area or a smaller building, or on fewer buildings. And of course, what's also so important is the whole process. It takes a lot of time if you want to really make a professional projection. The first step is to really map the building. Then you need to use the right projector and the right strength of the projector. And then in the end, you also need to really fit the images and animations you want to project really perfectly on a building. And that's done by a programmer, for instance, and it also takes a lot of time. So that's also important to take into account. And of course, projections are done in the night. And it's also important that you take into account the permits. So for instance, if you use a lot of sound, it could be a ground to reject a permit. But also, if you use a lot of light, it could also be a ground to reject a permit. So that's all also things you need to consider. And lastly, you also need to use high contrast images. For instance, in the city center, there's a lot of light pollution. So it's important to really use high contrast images. And for instance, black and white images, that could be a problem, but using white letters is perfect. And of course, the marketing is an important aspect. You really need to make sure that people are coming, that the students are coming. So, for instance, the contest part is the thing we thought of to really engage students, and also to, if we present a winner at the end, hopefully they will all come to get a view and sneak peek if they won. And also, you could think of maybe using a social media campaign, or maybe using free food or drinks at the end. So that could be things to consider. And these are our acknowledgements, actually. And also, of course, the illustrator from the friend from Anouk. Yeah.
Okay. So lastly, as you just saw, there are some things that are hard to manage about a project because it's quite excessive. But we talked with Mr. Beam, which is this. I think we've said that before, but Mr. Beam are the people who also made Light the City. So they know a lot about it, and they also said that this is definitely highly manageable if they see the right amount of money. That's something for later. For now, we have tried our best to create a prototype. We did this with equipment at home, so hopefully everything is right. I hope as well that it is easy enough to see. But yeah, I think it's playing already. Yeah. Enjoy.
Hello, my name is Johan Konrad van Goesen. So here in Utrecht, they simply call me Professor van Goesen. When I first arrived in Utrecht in 1693, this is what Zonnebloem Kostuum looked like. Utrecht University was barely 60 years old and only taught 4 faculties: law, medicine, theology, and philosophy. Zonnebloem Kostuum was an unused fort from the 16th century that was meant to defend the city against cannon artillery. But as the university expanded, it was re-established as the Herbal Botanical Gardens First Faculty of Medicine during my time. From then on, the Zonnebloems became subjects. It's a curious mixture of medicine, alchemy, and chemistry. So, I wrote my own book on the principle and procedures of chemistry, and I began teaching it privately. In random lab rooms filled with glassware minerals and the smell of burning sound. But something unexpected happened. Students loved it. Word spread quickly across the track. My lectures became so popular that by 1703, the university itself invited me to teach as the first professor of chemistry. And for that, we needed a proper laboratory. So we built one, right here in the Zonneberg Hospital. Imagine, a chemistry lab above an old cannon bunker. My students and I now perform experiments where soldiers want to guard. The clink of glass now replaced the clash of metal. Here, we distilled, burned, and mixed the building blocks of matter, seeking order in what alchemists once called a mystery. Later, I wrote several books to teach this new science clearly and systematically. Some of these ideas still echo in chemistry classrooms even today. And so I became known as the first professor to establish chemistry as an independent science in university education. For centuries after my death, this little laboratory was forgotten. Until, during restorations in 2001, the remains of my old workspace were unearthed beneath the observatory. Once again, the light reached my lab. This time not by flame, but of discovery. Today, the Zonneberg not just stands as an observatory, but as a bridge between past and future science. From chemistry to astronomy, the search for understanding continues here in Utrecht. And that, my friends, is the true alchemy, turning curiosity into knowledge.
So, I see a question already.
So first of all, I really liked it. I'm really impressed by all you did. My question is that, did you find big flat surfaces on all three of the buildings? And if not, do you provide an outline of where windows are for the competition, so where not to draw?
Yeah, so we talked with Mr. Beam about that. And apparently it is not necessary to have flat areas. But luckily for the Zonneberg we did, so that's why we chose that as a prototype as well, just to make it a little bit easier for us. The other place we chose, that was the academic building. That has, of course, a lot of windows and a lot of hooks, I guess. I'm not sure how to call it. But they said that together, if you work together with them, you can ask them to close the windows for a night. They did that before also with that location. And in that way, you can not have the projection of the glass, as you say, not have a black gap. So that would work. For Minard, it's quite a bit harder. And for that, we are thinking about maybe doing a smaller part. But it's definitely possible, even with windows.
Yeah, about the sound part on the Zonneberg building, would it be? What is your idea of the implementation of that? I think you would have speakers or something, and would it be like a cinematic theme, so that there would be a time slot where the film is playing and sound is playing, or would it be all day or all night? And how would you manage the sound?
So probably we will use speakers, and then you will place the speakers as close as possible to the viewers. And I think for now we are planning to do it as sort of route. So I think also that you can do it multiple hours during the night, and also possible to do it multiple days. Yeah, in that way, hopefully, yeah, you cannot do it that loud, for instance, because it's in the city center. But it's a thing to look at in the future if you want to really make it happen. you have to really discuss with the municipality what is possible in terms of the sound you're going to use.
Yeah, and if we choose to work together with Mr. Beam, they provide the sound as well. So it's provided together. They will be putting it next to where they're also putting their beamers and where the people will be standing. So it can be managed to be not quite as loud and still be very much enjoyable and very much immersive. We are intending to have like a time frame from, for example, 8 p.m. till 11 p.m. So the people living by don't have that much of a, they can sleep basically. So in that way, we'll manage that.
Congratulations. Both projections were remarkable. Really good work. And I'm interested in the background. Was it needed to learn new softwares, new technologies for this, or you practice something what you learned before?
Yeah, so as Amy mentioned, they were created using Procreate, which is a drawing software that you can download on iPad. And I've had some experience with Procreate before, but I've never actually made animations on there. So that was my first ever animation. Yeah.
Very impressive indeed, and as a stakeholder as well, and the Lustrum committee. Okay, nice to meet you. Yeah, I was being updated along the way multiple times, and it was very pleasant. And so a big compliment for that. Also with how you managed it, that you were the PR team, Amy and Rutger, and you did all the contacts. And I think also that you were in contact with multiple stakeholders, because this is a project that really takes multiple. You need to think about so many different things, and I think at the end it all comes down to money right now. Yeah. Would you be? And I'm curious as a stakeholder as well. Would you be interested? What if so a projection? What is the another solution if projection is not possible? But I really like the interactive parts with also with. Having students there as well, so being interactive with students and connecting them to the Lustrum, because that's something sometimes it may feel like the Lustrum is for university and but it's also for students. So I like that part. What would be if you would downsize it? What I don't want to, but what would be another a smaller projection?
So in a more early stage, we also thought about AR, augmented reality. So that's also a possibility. So in the end, we chose for the projections as our main focus for now. But let's say it's not possible. I think AR is also a really good option to probably use or to make it happen in another way. Yeah, and then you can just use it with your phone or with your and can watch over a building and then see it sort of happen. The same animation, for instance, and also with sounds, it's also possible with your phone, I think.
Yeah, and for if we want to stick to projections, you also have the option of either, as we said, choosing a smaller building. Because if you guys want to hear about the financial part, we talked with Mr. Beam about it. It's quite interesting. The Minner building requires 4 projectors, which for 3 days, 3 nights is 60K. Yeah, yeah. That means with the whole managing part, because the projector has to be inside of a container to keep clean. In the night, there has to be like a surveillance security guy, which is also money, and all that other stuff that you usually don't think about. A smaller building for 3 days is 15K. So you could say we go from the Minner building to a building in the Drift, which is significantly less already, which only uses 1 projector. He also gave us an explanation of another project he did, which is a bit. It does look less appealing, let's just say that. It's a person on a bike with a projector in the front carriage, and he's cycling through the city with a projector, which is really cool because you can go to different locations, and it's much, much less costly, but you do see like a square just the whole time while you're like biking somewhere, because the projector isn't going out. So it's kind of like you're just walking with like a square projector, which, yeah, we could show pictures of, but that will take more. So And there's an option of projecting them all in one building.
Yeah, and so the one with the bike is not, as I said, in the sort of process, is not perfectly fit to the building. It's just sort of, you're taking a screen and putting it up on a building, but it's not like very perfectly fit to the building. That's a different kind of projection, yeah. Some other questions? Or?
I think then that's it. Thank you guys all for listening.
To me, the final words, as the person also, together with Ivar, we started it in 2019, and this is the 10th edition. And I have to say, it was an amazing journey together. So the facilitators and the students, I'm so impressed by what you achieved in such a short time. I mean, we have been together for about 8 weeks, and then this is the result. Great. And not only this year, of course, but if we look back at the other iterations, it's always a pleasure and also a new experience, because you are the ones who co-create. We are only here, you know, for if you will ask questions, we are present, and we have these conversations about how do you feel, what's your personal status, are you achieving your personal goals, and as far as I'm concerned, that was also a great experience, because you then really interact. Because then you hear about dreams also of people looking to the future, and you all have your own dreams. And what I loved about the whole project so far as so the 10th iteration is that it's the surprise. You never know what's going to be. And one of the things that is new to me, because I was on sabbatical last year, I didn't, so I was not the person who was involved in the 9th iteration. Jaro was, of course, David was, Simon was, and when he came in today, he said, oh, I'm so jealous, and I feel a little bit, you know, uncomfortable, because what should I do here, apart from literally recording together with Ivar, but you are so important also for the vibrations and the being together also with the students from Budapest. How great! And no, really, it's so great to have you here, and also the facilitators from Budapest, literally in the context of EU Charm. It's great to be here, and we have this secret weapon in Budapest, of course, Anouk. Yeah. You were so important as a connection between the two cities, and also to facilitate the parallel processes, because it's hard. It's not easy to connect, because we have these sessions, of course, and I have been very impressed by all the students in Budapest telling their stories, and we were also presenting here, and it's funny to stand here and you're standing there. Still, there was this connection, a very special one. Thank you all, but before I stop, I would like to stress the importance of, and I would say from an educational perspective, this is the Teaching and Learning Lab. And since last year, we are making a connection with Lily's Proto Lab, so we design here and materialize the ideas in Lily's Proto Lab. That's a unique thing. We have to realize where on earth on a university we have these two spaces, literally, and connect them. Thank you so much for enabling that. And I give the floor now to you. Orsi, please.
Guys, it's such a wonderful moment to share this with you, and I really can't tell you how much this meant to us, that we're kind of, Anouk and I were here in the beginning, then we went to Hungary, so we met you, then we had all this contact with you, then the students had the contact with you, then we waved to each other, and now we're back here and we see these amazing projects that developed. It's very, very moving. So I must say that this is a collaboration that brings not only immense amount of knowledge, but also immense amount of joy. And I want to thank energy, absolutely energy, inspiration. So thank you, all of you. It was wonderful to share this with you in presence. Thank you, Toan. Thank you, all the facilitators. And very much thank you, Anouk, because what Toan said is Anouk has been amazing, and she has been connecting, and she's been helping us and supporting us and being here at the same time. And I think I can't imagine how she did it, because she was in her mentally in 2 places at the same time. So she's really wonderful. And I really want to celebrate this moment. And as a little point of celebration, we brought from Budapest a marzipan heart, because you have to understand that not all the students can be here, and also Alexandra, one of the facilitators, isn't here, but their heart is now very much here, and to show that we brought these hearts. So don't leave without us approaching you, and to every student and every facilitator, we would like to give you a little heart. And thank you so much. It was wonderful to do it. Whoa!
There are drinks.
Okay.